don't wait to be told what to do. Don't wait to be instructed. Take some initiative.
Welcome to the Next Level Journalist, where you will hear from some of the best journalists in the business or who have been there, done that, and willing to share with you what they've learned so you can get better, faster.
My guest today is an international journalist at Al-Jazeera, the second international journalist on this platform. So excited to have you on here, Kamahl Santamaria. Thank you for making time for this.
Oh, my pleasure. And, it's my honor to come after Leah, who was my co-host for many years on NewsGrid as well. She's a great journalist.
Yeah, she was great to have on here. And look, the pleasure is all mine and anyone else who hears this, sees this, because to get your perspective, I think is going to be invaluable for any aspiring journalist or any journalist in general. So if you could, give us an idea of what your TV experience has been like and what your journey has been like, if you will.
It has been an unconventional journey. That is what I would say.
Okay.
I never went to college. I never went to journalism school. I started in this business on air when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
By sheer luck in some respects, but also through just determinism, being determined, being pushy, being a pain in the neck, basically, and getting my way into a work experience situation. That's what I did. I was out of high school and I was hassling one of the TV stations in New Zealand, where I'm from. Bear in mind, there were only 2 TV stations back then. And, I said, hey, I want to do some work experience with you. I'm going to be going to college, but I want some work experience. And would you take me on? And they did eventually. And I was on air on my first night at work on the 6 p.m. news bulletin, thinking, what the hell's going on here? And that was just the start of a roller coaster for me. But it's, as I say, it's not the conventional way of doing things, and I wouldn't necessarily go straight to people and say, oh, no, you don't need to go to college, you don't need to go to journalism school. It doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
But it can
That's
work.
so fascinating. So you start in New Zealand. Take us, I guess, what were the steps like from there? I mean, did you stay where you were for a while? And just give us an idea where you went along the way.
Sure. 3 years in New Zealand, working as a news reporter and a sports reporter and a sports producer. And then, as many New Zealanders do, we like to travel. We're from the bottom of the world. We like to go and see what the rest of the world is all about. So I went to Australia for 3 years. Well, I didn't know how long it was going to be. And I worked for Sky News in Australia as a business reporter. And it was actually a fantastic role because I was on my own. It was the early days of video journalism. So I was filming, reporting, editing, presenting, anchoring, kind of everything in one go. And it taught me a lot about trusting myself and about, if you want something done properly, do it yourself, right? So that was 3 years there. I probably would have stayed longer had it not been for a fateful intervention with a woman. You know how that goes, right? You meet a woman from the other side of the world and you go, okay, I'm moving to New York then. Wow. And that's what I did. I moved to New York only for a few months, and then my, now wife... and I moved to London. I was looking for work in London, and I should point out, couldn't get a job in London because I didn't have a degree. I hadn't been to college, and I know my applications were going straight to the bottom of the pile there. In those days, I think it was very much, if you're not educated, and I use that word loosely, educated, then you're not going to be on, getting a job. And then I heard about this place, Al-Jazeera, which was launching an English language channel. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And again, it was by being pushy. It was about sending my tape and sending my resume out to them and getting pushy with them. And they said, well, we like you. Would you like to be a producer in London? And I said, yes, I would. And then they said, would you like to be a presenter in Doha, an anchor? And I said, where's Doha? And so begins the journey. And it's just, again, about taking those risks, about pushing yourself and go, yeah, okay, I'm going to go to Doha. I haven't heard of this place before, but I'm going to go there. And I'll go there for a couple of years and I'll see how that goes. And that was nearly 16 years ago. So that kind of tells you how things went in the end.
That is so awesome. And I love that, the risk taking. I'm a risk taker myself. I love to take action, love to take chances. It's probably why I married somebody completely different from me. She pulls back the reins a little bit and says,
Me
slow
too.
down a little bit, evaluate what we're doing here. So, well, with that said, and you having so much experience in different, literally countries when it comes to TV journalism and whatnot, what differences have you seen? What has helped you get better when you reflect? I know it's been some time since New Zealand and Australia, but I mean, what have you learned from those experiences when you look back? And is there a lot of differences?
Yeah, huge differences. So yeah, I've been in the business 23 years now. And I am thankful every day for the grounding that I got. I was, let's say, 18 years old in the late 90s. And what I'm now learning is that I was one of the last journalists or generation of journalists, certainly in New Zealand, to learn from the old school, right? To get the absolute basics, the tough, the school of hard knocks, the what the hell are you doing? This is how you do it, and just get it done. And
yeah.
I think I'm incredibly fortunate to have learnt from that sort of school of hard knocks, because I don't know that really exists anymore. It's changed a lot. And I think younger people coming through now, obviously with social and digital media, they're very skilled, but I don't know how much of those core journalism basics they have. So I think that's the change I've certainly seen, and I've sort of realized, and this is one of the reasons I'm thrilled to talk to you, is that I've got a bit of a responsibility to pass on some of that knowledge now so it doesn't get lost, basically. That's what I try to do. And I've seen all sorts of differences. And working in a newsroom like Al Jazeera, where you've got people from all over the world, you see different skill sets, you see different styles. And I guess you try to pick the best out of every one of them and try to learn from others as well, and try to teach others.
Yeah, and I love that. I don't think we're too far off in age. Obviously, you started much earlier than I did, but I can appreciate. I've got that appreciation. That's a word that comes to mind for me, like editing tape to tape. My first reel is on a VHS tape that is literally sitting right next to my desk right here, so I can definitely appreciate what that's like. So with that said, what are some of those core lessons, values, those messages that you want to pass along to those, like I said, who don't necessarily realize just how far it's come in such a short period of time? I mean, it seems like yesterday, but I guess it has been 20 years since I sent out a VHS tape. But still.
Exactly. Okay. Basics. And this is a phrase which I love: write like you talk. Write like a normal human being. In fact, I'm going to plug a friend of mine here who has a Twitter account at Write Like You Talk. Jeff Butera is from ABC News in the US, and he writes a broadcasting guide for writing for television. And that's what he says: write like you talk, write like a normal human being. Here's an example. Today we're reporting on wildfires all over the world at the moment. And in some of my scripts, I heard about blazes, I heard about infernos, I heard about fires tearing through the mountainside. And I thought, I don't talk like that. It sounds really descriptive and really strong, but actually I don't talk like that. I don't say, "Oh, look at that inferno over there." Or, "Oh, that's a blaze. That's a terrible blaze." No, it's a fire. And that's what you call it. Those sorts of absolute basics. Every time you write a script or you say something, say it out loud and think, would I say that in real life? And so often you wouldn't. My favorite one that I hear a lot is something like, let's say there's a big conference that's going to be beginning, or a big summit. The summit begins in earnest tomorrow. Where is earnest? What is in earnest? No one says unless it's happening in a town called Ernest. I don't want to hear that.
Right.
So, and it's all these phrases. I think people they write like they think a reporter should sound. Right. I'm gonna talk like a reporter. I'm going to use my reporter voice, and I'm going to write like a reporter. No, write like a normal human being. If you think something's, and I'm not adverse on air as an anchor, and a bit more relaxed sometimes, to saying something's cool, or because that's the way people talk. And you're not going to connect with people unless you talk like them. So I think that's my absolute number one. Just go back and look through your script. Do I need to say this? Would I say this in real life? No, I wouldn't. A lot of the time. So that's my big one.
Yeah. That's great stuff. I mean, simple, and that's something someone can put into effect immediately. So that's why I love, just that quick, piece of feedback, again, that someone can implement today. And it's funny, I don't know if you saw, but I actually talked to Jeff on here a number of episodes ago. So I'll definitely let him know that we jumped on here together. But
I love that guy. I said a friend. I've never met him, but I've discovered him through Twitter. I was like, this guy is great, and I've written testimonials for him, and I've bought multiple copies of his book and handed it out because it's like just go to the basics every time, you know. And
I'm connecting you guys. Because you got it's great. It's the common denominator is a lot of the stuff you said, like. His goal is to help pass it along, make the generation even better, and that's exactly what you talked about before I even brought it up. So just to hand off that knowledge.
Totally.
So with that said, maybe some advice you were given early in your career or even just recently, whatever stands out to you that you've kind of kept with you along the way and say, you know what, I want to continue to pass this along as well.
Less is more. And that's such a basic thing, but less is more. Here's the thing. You, as a TV reporter, you will have, a minute 30, 2 minutes if you're lucky to get your story across. You got to be smart with that time. You got to be really smart. You don't have the luxury of writing screeds and screeds of text like a print journalist does. You've just got to get it done. So, write smartly. Don't over-explain things. And remember, you're there to convey the story. You've presumably interviewed people for this story. They can do a lot of storytelling for you. You don't just have to have, a soundbite of someone reacting and saying, oh, this is terrible because X, Y, and Z. Maybe they can help drive the story along and do some of the work for you so that you're not having to write too much. I'm sure Jeff would say this as well. Yeah, it's the less is more thing. And just, you don't have much time at all. You got to be really, and also... Well, maybe this is not so much the case now because, hey, the kids can watch it back on YouTube, can't they? Or watch it on Twitter or TikTok or wherever. But back in our day, listen to me, you only got one shot at this because someone's only going to watch it once. They're watching it on television. They see it once. They only get one shot, which means you have to be super, super clear about what you're doing. Now, just because people can go back and watch things doesn't mean that fundamental should change at all. So it's writing smartly and remembering that the people watching, they don't know the whole story. You can't assume they do. So you got to be really clever about how you write things.
Yeah, and I love how you just said you get one shot. Like if you keep that mentality, that's better than getting lazy, I guess might be the word for it. But just to have that mentality to stay sharp and along the lines of being efficient with your words, like that's something I learned later in my career. So I'm glad you shared that early on because it took me almost 7-8 years. I remember one sports director, so we have that in common as well. I was a sports guy, and he took like a minute 40 package that I had, and he sliced it down to 1:15, and I bet he could see my jaw hit the desk, thinking, "What are you doing?" But it's one of the best lessons that I learned. Unfortunately, it took me a long time to learn that lesson.
And when you see it happen, when they cut that script down and they get the chainsaw out and just cut right through it, you're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't need that entire paragraph." You start to edit just by doing a few words here and there. No. Just you probably don't even need that whole thing. And the worst thing is when someone will say, residents are afraid, let's say it's fires again. Residents are afraid, they're fearing for their lives. And the first thing you hear the clip is, oh, I'm really fearing for my life here. Oh, for goodness sake. Stop doubling up. Just less is more every time.
Yeah,
you can see I get excited about this, right? This is what I want to pass on. I'm passionate about this sort of thing.
No, that is great stuff. I'm glad you mentioned that, the redundancy of it. Like, yes, exactly. You've already said it. You don't need to say it again, even if it's somebody else. I love that. And you're clearly a student of journalism, and how you mentioned before about how you read Jeff's book, and it seems like you're always trying to keep sharp and whatnot. So, what are some things that you do to continue to stay sharp, develop your skills, get to where you are today?
I watch a lot of other news networks. I obviously I watch Al-Jazeera when I'm on air, but a lot of the time on my days off, I will actually spend time watching others because I want to learn, I want to see other styles, and actually I want to see what not to do as well. The amount of times I'd be sitting there watching going, oh, why are they doing that? Why are they talking like this? And that's actually a way of reinforcing what you should do. You don't always have to look at You don't always have to look at what is right. You sometimes have to look at what is wrong, and it reinforces what you think. I think I got there with that. But yeah, I watch a lot of other journalists, and I like to watch American news because I think the storytelling in America is very sharp and it moves quickly. And gets across a lot more in a shorter space of time than, say, British news, which is a lot more in-depth and slower paced, which has its place, make no mistake. But I like to learn from all these different styles, definitely. So I think the best thing you can do is just keep watching, keep looking for different styles, looking for different influences.
Yeah, and clearly your humility comes through the screen. That someone that's been in this 20 plus years is still trying to get better at their craft, still watching others, whether again not to do or what to do. So what are some lessons that you have learned over those 20 years that you could throw in here as well?
Okay, well, I'll tell you my philosophy, and my philosophy is 1459. And what that means is that in your career, especially being on air and being in front of camera all the time, the clock is always at 14 minutes and 59 seconds. And that means one more second and your 15 minutes of fame are up. And if you've always got to think like that. You can't get complacent. You can't sit there and think, oh, well, I'm an anchor now and everything's cool. I can do, I just have to sit here and read the prompter. No, that clock could tick over to 15 minutes and your 15 minutes of fame are done at any moment. And it could be because of something you do. It could be because of a change of management. It could be anything. So, and this is my mum's voice in my head as well, who told me no one is irreplaceable, Kamahl. And you always have to remember that. And I think people can get complacent in this business in the anchoring chair, and start to think, oh, well, everyone else is doing the work. I just have to put it to air. No, you've got to be part of the whole process the whole time. Complacency, I keep saying that over and over again, but it's a real problem, I think. And you've got to remember that you are still a journalist. You can report, you can news gather, you can do all sorts of stuff still. Just because you're reading the prompter doesn't mean you can't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this on this channel before, so people that hear it, it'll be just repeating to them, but 100% agree. My first job, I lost it after 15 months because they said I wasn't quite, fitting their expectations. And truth be told, I wasn't ready. I was straight out of school. It was market 80. I was number 3. And they were training me on a lot of things that I should have just been hitting the ground running with. So how I slipped through the cracks, I really don't know. It was a blessing for me because I learned 15 months of invaluable experience from these guys, but should not have had that opportunity. And I learned real quick that anyone is replaceable because I'm not someone who's ever been, dropped or cut or, like I said, basically fired from that position. So it was quite a humbling experience for me. So just to reiterate what Kamahl just said there, you are replaceable. So do not get complacent. Not that I was complacent, but I still learned a tough lesson.
And also know your strengths, know your weaknesses, identify these sorts of things. Peter Jennings, one of the greatest newscasters of our time, he was, given a full-time anchoring job at 26, which is actually the same age I was when I did. But he realized very quickly, no, I got to go out and do some more work. I got to go out in the field again. I need to learn more of this craft, and then I'll be. And look, he turned into one of, as I say, the greatest newscasters we've ever seen. His performance on I use that word. Slightly odd word, but on 9/11 was extraordinary. And I watched what he did there, and I mean, he just sat in the seat. And he was like, "I want to see this, this, and this," and I'm taking over. And it was a masterclass. But he recognized what his strengths and weaknesses were, and he went and worked on them. I know that I am not the world's best interviewer. Like, if you want to sit down for a big 30-minute in-depth interview, that is not my forte. I can do it, but I know it's not my absolute strength. So I need to work on that. And when I do get that opportunity, I need to do it right. But my strength is doing what I'm doing now, talking lots, keeping the show going, keeping moving. Yeah. And I enjoy that, and I will always play to that strength. But you got to know your weaknesses as well.
Yeah, always working on your craft, hammering that point home. I love that. So talk about some maybe challenges that you faced in your career, throughout your career, that stand out to you. Obviously, COVID-19 was and is still one to this day, right? But other challenges maybe that you've experienced that you said, you know what, I faced this, I learned from this, it got me better, or I failed, and I learned from it. What comes to mind?
So when we began this channel, Al-Jazeera English, I was in this fortunate position of being able to, we had a 4-month period before we went on air of practicing in real time, of running news bulletins 24/7, of treating it absolutely real. If there's breaking news, let's get people on the phone, let's get our reporters, even if they're just in the studio next door, let's react and let's make it feel real. So I was very, very fortunate. And then we went on air and it suddenly got very real. And there were times where I thought, oh boy, I'm not sure about this. I was told, there's a live event happening, there's a news conference from such and such, we want you to go on air early and take it live. And I'm going, oh, okay. And that's when you take a deep breath and go, just do it, right? You can sit here and worry about it and overthink it, or you can get on air and do it. And you're going to make mistakes. And I made plenty of mistakes. And it is all, and this is in life, it's how you recover from your mistakes, right? And don't be afraid to make mistakes. We're humans. Again, I think I go back to my point about people wanting to look like a reporter and sound like a reporter and sound perfect. That's not what people do. People say and are. People forget things. People are completely human. So you should be that person on air as well. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Learn from it and keep moving. I'm trying to think of some other real specifics, but it's
Well, I liked how you mentioned. I'll just jump in what you just
Yeah,
said
please.
there. I remember I used to let a mistake, it would linger in the back of my head. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to present on camera, and that was a formula for a disaster. Like, I knew better, but I would let that mistake linger. So just to add to that point, like, once that mistake is made, it's how you react, just like you said. I love how you mentioned that, because that's something that, unfortunately, I would let affect the rest of that sportscast or whatever it is that I was presenting. So I appreciate that you mentioned that.
And you know what? It's only television. It's not rocket science. It's only TV in the end, and things will go wrong sometimes because it's live television, and that's cool. And the viewers might kind of enjoy that sometimes, or they will appreciate... Okay, I've thought of an example, actually. There was one time where... there's one time at band camp. God, I heard myself starting to say that. I'm on air, and everything failed, right? Couldn't play any reports out. Couldn't do anything. The team are telling me, keep reading, and I could have just sort of gone, oh, well, we've got some technical problems there, so I'm just going to carry on. And I went... It got so ridiculous that I just stopped and went, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. We've got some real technical problems. I've got nothing for you right now. I've got no pictures. All you've got is me telling you the news, so I'm just going to keep talking to you. And someone put the website on screen and said, hey, let's look at the headlines on the website at the moment. And people enjoy that sort of thing. They're very forgiving of that sort of thing. There is absolute chaos. But my team in the gallery, in the control room, they need me to lead at that point. They need me to take the stress off them, because they're going, where do we go? Now, I could wait for the director to tell me what to do, or I could actually give the director a little bit of room, and I'll just say, hey, I'm just going to talk for a bit. You guys sort out the problems and we'll get there. You've got to lead. You've got to take, I've seen too many people on air clearly waiting to be told what to do. And that's in a situation like that. That's in a breaking news situation. Clearly, they are waiting to be given direction. No, you're the anchor. You're in charge. You take the lead, and you help your people through it as well. Don't expect it to all be done for you. You help through them. I think I've gone off on a tangent, but I do think that's really important.
No, I love it, and you've unpacked so much great stuff. Come on, and I want to respect your time, because I know the time difference. And
hey, man, I got all the time in the world. I'll keep talking. That's my job.
And I love that you're passionate about it. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to leave you with basically talk about whatever's still on your heart and on your mind, thinking, you know what, you want to share this. For some reason, this guy hasn't asked me about this. What comes to mind that you want to leave, aspiring journalists with? And when I say aspiring, I tell people all the time, we should all be aspiring, whether this is your first job or your fifth job, always trying to get better, which is the mindset that you clearly have. But what would you like to, like I said, leave us with that I haven't asked you about quite yet?
Take the initiative. Don't wait to be told what to do. Don't wait to be instructed. Take some initiative. I'll give you an example at the moment. I love data, right? I love, especially with COVID, it's been, numbers, charts, graphs, maps, all these sorts of things. And I want to see that on air. So I've been doing it myself. I've been finding the websites with the graphs. I've been learning the easiest way for me to get that on air, which is actually just to use it in Photoshop on my iPad and then use the iPad on air. rather than waiting and thinking, okay, let's go and talk to the graphics department about this. Let's get this done that way. Let's write a script. Let's get it done. Let's show some initiative and let's do it. And I enjoy that because for me, it's adding to the output. It's adding to the content. It's adding to the viewers' understanding of everything. And never forget, this is probably a nice way to end it, actually. Never forget who we're doing this for. We're doing it for the viewers. I think we lose sight of that a lot, too much. We get caught up in our own little bubble, our little journalism bubble, which is within our channel bubble, which is within our group bubble, and we forget that we are doing this for an audience who a lot of the time doesn't know as much as we do, isn't as clued in. That's no disrespect to the viewers, but obviously we are being exposed to so much more. And it is our job and our responsibility to get the real news across to them and get the facts across to them, especially, and I'm not even going to go into all the fake news and misinformation stuff, but it's more important than ever right now to get that across to them. Take the initiative, remember why you're doing it, speak to the viewers, give them something which they can take away so they can say, oh, I saw on the news the other day, X, Y, and Z. That's what we used to say when we used to gather around the water cooler at work and say, oh, I saw on the news the other night. Well, that's the important thing. If they saw it on the news, then it better be right and it better be worthwhile. So that's what I would just say to people. Don't forget who you're doing this for and take that initiative and say, no, I want my viewers to understand this, so I am going to do it.
I love how you talk about the value that you bring your viewers, but also the value that you bring to your station, right? I mean, yes,
Totally.
We're all replaceable, but for you to bring that extra value and you're not just, the guy behind the desk, that you have that mindset to say, you know what, I need to deliver more value, not just to my viewers, which are highly, important, but also to my station, right?
Exactly. Make it worthwhile. Otherwise, why are we doing this, right?
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Oh, and one more thing.
Thank you.
One more thing.
Go ahead,
I just remembered.
No, do it. Give it to us. We're here. Give me it.
Be yourself. Be yourself. Don't be a reporter. Don't be what you think a reporter or an anchor should be. By all means, watch other people and learn styles and learn ways of doing things, but don't mimic them. Don't copycat them. Be yourself. The person I'm being with you right now is pretty much the person you see on air. I'm probably being a little more enthusiastic here, and a lot of the content we have on Al-Jazeera, unfortunately, isn't a sort of a jump up and down and smile sort of stuff. But
sure.
But the same energy, I think, is what has to come across, because I'm being myself. I'm not going to be anyone else. I'm not going to sit there and read like this, because that's the way I think people should talk. I don't talk like this in real life. I talk like this, and that's how I'm going to talk to you on air. Be yourself. There is no point in being anyone else. There is no point pretending. There is no point imitating. Be genuine, because you know what? Viewers can see through that. They know when you're being genuine or not. They know when you're... and that you will connect with them so much more if you are just being yourself.
Yeah, and I can feel it. I can feel just how genuine, authentic you were throughout it. And you're right. Yeah, we don't get to talk so passionately, on the TV, because we don't get to talk about all passionate subjects. But clearly, you are passionate about this.
That's why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah, well, you unpack so much for people to literally, what I say on here, get better, faster. All they have to do is watch the 30 minutes that we just talked, and they've just downloaded decades into their brain.
I hope so.
Well, I appreciate, again, your time, Kamahl, especially literally 7 hours ahead, I think, is what you are. We joked before, there's a reason we don't do math. There's a reason we do what we do, right? Video.
Exactly. Stick
math.
to the words.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Kamahl.
Take care.
And thank you for checking out this channel. If you found this content beneficial, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share it with someone you think might find it beneficial as well, because this channel was simply started and created to serve you, to help others grow, to learn how other successful TV journalists do or did it. So take what serves you so you can get better faster and reach your next level.